Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock. They're powerful, alright. We cover them all on your favorite part. So many movies we can choose. Even when you win, you lose. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast. Be excellent to each other. Please add a word to your mother. They're from the best decades. Movie magic that never fades. Lightsabers clash, phasers set to stun. Action packed from dusk till dawn. We have deep thoughts and questions three. Come share our love of the movies we see. Life moves pretty fast. Some will fizzle and some movies last. I understood there would be no math. It's the 30-something movie podcast.
Yes, it is the 30-something movie podcast. I am your host, John Reed, and this time around we are talking the 1995 comedy movie starring David Spade and Chris Farley, Tommy Boy. I have with me, as always, my own road trip buddies here. Maybe we're going to go sell some auto parts. Who knows? Bo Warmbold, how you doing?
Yo.
Bo. And then Patrick Canagallo. How's it going?
Great. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. Anytime we get to talk movies, especially a good kind of like stupid, fun comedy movie.
Yes.
Always a good time. Very, very quickly, we spoil freely here, so be warned. This is pretty much your only spoiler alert for this one. If you haven't seen it, stop, go watch the movie, come on back. We'll still be here. We're not going anywhere. Visit our website, 30podcast.com. You can leave a rating, a voicemail. You could become a co-executive producer via Patreon over there and get some bonus content, get to interact with us a little bit more. You could be on an episode. You could tell us what to watch for an episode. Or you can just listen. That's fine too. Provide moral support there. But thank you so much to our Patreon supporters over there. It helps keep the lights on over here at the 30 Podcast. So we thank you for that. This being the first episode of the month, we do hop in the DeLorean, head back in time, and see what was going on in May of 1995.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious.
Get back, Marty. May 1st. Bo, I know your wife is a country music fan, so I'm sure she will probably be familiar with this song. May 1st was a single released by a gentleman named John Michael Montgomery. It was the Billboard Song of the Year in 1995. Do you know what song I'm talking about?
I swear?
No?
No.
Sold, the Grundy County auction incident.
Oh, yes.
That one came out May 1st of 1995. That is
funny because I don't think I would have known the title of that.
Oh yeah, okay. Well,
I would have called it Grundy County Auction or something.
Well, that's fine. Yeah. That is if there's a question later on that is going to be posed during the 3 questions about singing along in the car, and if the mood strikes that is country music, oftentimes that is on one of our playlists in the car for country music sing along songs. May 10th, a little bit more on a serious note here. On May 10th, Britain lifts a 23-year ban on talks with Sinn Féin in the Republic of Ireland. May 27th, so I vividly remember this happening. May 27th of 95 is when the actor Christopher Reeve was paralyzed from the neck down after falling off his horse in a riding competition in Virginia. So being the Superman fan that I am, I vividly remember that happening. Let's see. Deaths that occurred in May of 95. May 18th, the American actress Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha in Bewitched, died of cancer at age 62. And then on May 26th, Friz Freleng, an American animator for Warner Brothers Cartoons who did the Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, died at age 88. That's all, folks. Top book was The Rainmaker by John Grisham. Top movies were, there was one each week of the month of May. Top movies were French Kiss, Crimson Tide, Die Hard with a Vengeance, and Casper. And then top song for like the, I don't know, maybe third month in a row is This Is How We Do It by Montel Jordan.
This is
How we do it. Yep.
You know, it's funny. That could qualify. I mean, it wouldn't be the one I was going to answer for the 3 questions, but that could qualify.
Oh, you'd put that in there? Okay.
Oh, yeah, that gets turned up when you're driving.
Okay. All right. Well, the challenge we had when I posed those 3 questions to members of my family, I received the same response I have been receiving lately from my wife, which was no.
Wow.
And
just straight up no.
And what you meant to ask was, and then followed up with what the correct wording of the question should have been so that there could be multiple answers.
Oh.
Which is understandable because I had a hard time giving my own answer anyway. I was like, I don't know. It kind of depends on the mood, or it depends on who's in the car with you, or, you know, if I'm driving the kids around, I'm not singing Get in the Ring. So,
No.
you know, there's that.
I have not words for that image that you've placed into my head.
Right. You know. All right. For this one, for Tommy Boy, this one came out March 31st. So we actually not too long ago, about a month ago, we passed its actual 30th anniversary. Came out March 31st, 1995, rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour and 37 minutes. Directed by Peter Siegel, who did 50 First Dates and Get Smart. Writers were Bonnie Turner and Terry Turner. They did Wayne's World and Coneheads. Producers Lorne Michaels, who did Wayne's World and Mean Girls. Composer was David Newman, who did Matilda and the Nutty Professor. Cinematographer was Victor Kemper, who did Dog Day Afternoon and Clue. Editor was William Kerr, who did Bridesmaids and Trainwreck. Production company was Paramount Pictures and Broadway Video. Budget was $20 million. Box office was $32.7 million. Flickmetrics gives it a 62%, and CinemaScore gives it an A-. Chris Farley, who passed away in 1997, just 2 short years after this one came out, played Thomas Tommy Callahan III. He was in Black Sheep and Beverly Hills Ninja. David Spade was Richard Hayden. He was in Joe Dirt and Grown Ups. Brian Dennehy. Richard. Brian Dennehy, who passed in 2020, played Thomas Big Tom Callahan. He was in First Blood and Cocoon. Bo Derek played Beverly Barish Burns. She was in 10 and Bolero. Dan Aykroyd was Ray Zielinski. What did you do, Ray?
The Auto Parts King.
The Auto Parts King for the working man. Ghostbusters and the Blues Brothers. Julie Warner was Michelle Brock. She was in Doc Hollywood and Mr. Saturday Night. Sean McCann, who passed in 2019, was Frank Rittenhauer. He was in Chicago and The Killing Fields. Zach Grenier played Ted Riley. He was in Fight Club and The Good Wife. James Blendick played Ron Gilmore. He was in The Recruit and The Tuxedo. Rob Lowe, in an uncredited role as Paul Barish, was in St. Elmo's Fire and Wayne's World. Clinton Turnbull played Young Tommy. He was in The Santa Claus and Goosebumps. And Ryder Britton played Young Richard. He was in The Santa Claus and Goosebumps.
I did not know this was an uncredited Rob Lowe.
Apparently that's what I had read here. I was going to go back to just double check that and make sure, but yeah, apparently it was. I want to say it was because there was some kind of contractual thing going on that he did not.
Oh yeah, it had to be something weird like that.
Yeah, and
that's a pretty big role to be uncredited.
Correct. Yeah, Rob Lowe, uncredited. I'm trying to remember. I think maybe I should go look at my trivia. Yes, Rob Lowe was uncredited in the film due to contractual obligations with another studio at the time he was filming Stephen King's The Stand. So.
Y'all got to do what y'all got to do.
Yeah.
Hollywood's weird, man.
Yeah. This movie was originally had a couple of different titles. One was Rocky Road, one was Fat Chance, and then finally they settled on Tommy Boy.
I think Fat Chance might have worked out to be in poor taste.
Ever so slightly, probably. Yeah.
What the hell?
You know, leaning heavily on the fat jokes in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but still.
Yeah. And then one of the last ones I have here is, and this is just kind of a funny moment, if you know, kind of a deal. When Tommy sees Beverly and asks his dad, "Is that for me?" He's no, that's for me, son.
No,
And then
that's for
he
me.
says something out, and he goes, "Man, she's like a 10."
But
and if you know, Bo Derek was one of the stars of the Dudley Moore movie 10. So, the more you know.
Ba-da-da-da.
All right. In a world where the family business is on the line, one bumbling heir, Tommy, and his uptight sidekick, Richard, must save the day. Holy shnikes, it's going to be a cross-country comedy ride like no other with Tommy Boy.
Holy shnikes.
Is that for me?
No, son, that's for me.
You know, a lot of people go to college for 7 years.
I know. They're called doctors.
There's always has been, always will be, a family firm. Oh, son of a... Someday my son will run it.
Luke, I am your father.
Aw, I've interrupted happy time.
That's my name. Yeah, that's your new office now.
Whoa. Do we really want to put the future of the company in Tommy's hands?
Promise me you'll look after Tommy Boy here till he gets his feet wet.
Sure, and thanks for choosing me. Hey, Tommy, this is not a vacation for me. I'm out here against my will, so the least you can do is pretend to work. Ugh, I can actually hear you getting fatter. All right, it's sale time, so remember, we don't take
No for an answer.
No.
Okie dokie.
I'm gonna pass.
Gotcha, thanks. Oh, son of a... That's gonna leave a mark.
Okay, let's check you out. All right.
It's a clip, huh?
Hi, are you sure?
Can't breathe.
He's a big dumb animal, isn't he, folks?
No, son of a... What'd you do? I'm a maniac on the floor.
Did you eat a lot of paint chips when you were a kid?
Why?
All right, major moments. 10 major moments. Broke it down that way so you don't have to. After 7 years at college, which always reminds me of the of the line from John Belushi. What does he say? Like 8 years of college down the drain. Yes, there are people that go to college for 7 years, Tommy. They're called doctors.
Yeah, they're called doctors.
Tommy Callahan III finally graduates and returns to Sandusky, Ohio, where his father, Big Tom, gives him a job at Callahan Auto and announces his engagement to Beverly. During the wedding reception, Big Tom suffers a fatal heart attack, leaving the company's future uncertain and putting Tommy in an unexpected leadership role. Then, of course, after he does pass, they do play the bagpipes, and whenever they play this song on the bagpipes, I really just feel like a missed opportunity. If they just crammed him into a torpedo and shot him into orbit over the Genesis planet, he'd be totally fine. Totally fine. We found someone here on the surface. It's Big Tom.
That's extraordinary. What would you like to do next?
Holy shnikes, it's Big Tom. But you know, missed opportunity. And he's cocoon guy anyway, so he would have come back to life.
Right? Yeah.
You know, luminous beings are they, not this crude matter. With Big Tom, I feel like we just mashed up 3 different movies there. Just
That's kind of been our MO this week.
it has. It has like
one right after another.
Couple of recordings in a row. We're just like firing them off on all cylinders. With Big Tom gone, the bank pulls its support for a new brake pad division unless Tommy can sell 500,000 units to prove viability, offering a lifeline if he puts up his inheritance as collateral, which he does. Tommy partners with his sarcastic childhood acquaintance Richard for a cross-country sales trip to save the company, though early attempts end in disaster and tension.
And fire.
And fire, setting things
There's
on fire. He called me psychotic. Because you are?
Did you eat paint chips as a kid?
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Yeah. No, why?
Oh, why? Back in Sandusky, Michelle discovers that Beverly and Paul are con artists who plan to sell Callahan Auto to Zielinski and cash out, threatening the company's survival. After a major falling out, Tommy and Richard bond, and Tommy gains confidence in using his people skills, leading to a breakthrough in sales and renewed momentum, all because of chicken wings.
Tommy want Wingy.
Tommy want Wingy. Because chicken wings make everything better.
True.
Yeah.
True, I firmly believe that.
Can't argue with that at all.
No.
Paul hacks into the company's system, sabotaging Michelle's sales records and reversing much of the duo's hard work, allowing Beverly and Paul to push the Zielinski sale forward. Disguised as flight attendants, Tommy and Richard fly to Chicago because they can't get a ticket to confront Zielinski, who reveals that he intends to buy and dismantle Callahan Auto, ruining the town. In the process, Tommy stages a dramatic boardroom entrance after he holds up the bank very, very briefly by posing as a suicide bomber with road flares and a watch. He wins Zielinski's sympathy with a heartfelt plea and uses Paul's criminal records to prove that the marriage between Beverly and his father was illegal and a sham.
Listen up, this will only take a minute.
Oh, not again.
All the guns are getting thrown at him. And
sliding them out. Yeah. He hit me with a hammer in the head like 5 times, 10 times.
Yeah.
I've got kids.
Kids, yeah. With Beverly's marriage invalid, Tommy regains control of Callahan Auto just in time. Zielinski honors the brake pad order. Paul is arrested. Tommy begins a new chapter as company president, fulfilling his father's legacy. And now it's time for Deep Thoughts.
And now, Deep Thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot. Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
All right. First question. How do you guys get a good look at a T-bone? Okay, no. Second question. You don't have to answer that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I mean, I have an answer, but it's going to be different every time, and sometimes I'm not going to say it right. But
I always have an answer. You may not be what you were looking for.
Hold on.
I got one.
Do I have the do I have the beeping thing on here? Can I? No, I don't. Okay. All right. I have to add that back to the soundboard. Just to keep it family friendly. Now, when was the first time you saw this movie, and do you enjoy it?
As usual, I feel like I saw this soon after it came out. I went to the theater, but it was probably an HBO or because the previews would have been hysterical.
Yeah.
So I have a hunch of something like that.
Yeah.
Love this movie. Like, this is regular appointment viewing in my house for sure.
Yeah.
This is a movie you can definitely get Shawshanked by.
Oh, yeah. So the crazy answer for me is within the last 48 hours is the first time I've seen this movie.
Blowing my mind.
Wow.
Right
yeah. I hit for some reason or another. And maybe it's just because in high school, everybody quoted this thing. And so maybe I felt like I had already seen it.
And you thought you were too cool to watch the thing everyone else was watching.
No, it was clearly not that. At least I think I was honest with myself.
Did you realize you hadn't seen it once you started watching it, or did you just always know, hey, I've never seen this movie?
See, I think I had seen bits and pieces of it, but it's one of those I've never watched from start to finish all the way through. Because there were scenes of like he's, when he's trying to make the sales and he sets the stuff on fire in the office. I had seen that part before. When he's, what was the other one? I think of the scene where he's trying to get the chicken wings at the diner and they're not open for food yet. I had seen that one. I had seen a couple of the scenes where they're in the car together.
What'd you do?
I had seen some of the scenes where where they're at the hotel together and he's making the joke about, Buddy Wackett and the Yankees. And so I had seen some of those scenes, and I think it was quoted enough in high school and college and beyond that I think in my head I was like, oh yeah, I've seen Tommy Boy.
Okay.
Because I've seen pretty much, I'd say, most of the Saturday Night Live movies, the Adam Sandler ones, the David Spade, Chris Farley ones, all that stuff. I had seen probably all of them, if not very close to all of them. So I think it would have, up until about 48 hours ago, it would have shocked me to say, oh yeah, I've never seen Tommy Boy.
Okay.
But I started watching it. It was like, I was realizing like mid-watch, I was like, it was earlier than that. I don't know that I've seen this because I didn't remember the wedding scene in the movie. There was a bunch of things I didn't remember. And I feel like had I seen it, it would have been one that I would have watched regularly, as a high school kid.
Yeah.
So yes, so I was a little surprised that as I was starting to watch it, I was like, but I know this movie, but how do I know this movie? Because I haven't seen this movie.
Okay.
Unless the Mandela effect is real and we're all living in an alternate universe.
Well, yeah.
Which is possible.
Sha. As if.
Holy shnikes. Patrick, what about you?
I don't remember the first time I saw this movie.
Really?
It had to have been high school.
Okay.
Maybe very early in college. But I mean, remember when this movie came out? I think it's probably been almost 30 years since I saw it, but like all the beats just came right back. I must have seen it multiple times. I don't remember the first time, but yeah, saw it early on. Chris Farley, hilarious. Holy shnikes. I mean, I guess I kind of forgot that that's where that came from. And I'm like, oh yeah, that came from there. Pat,
when you said remember this movie came out, all I'm thinking is the line, you remember your brother?
Yes. Yeah. That was pretty cool.
I do.
Yeah, definitely. And rewatching it now, looking back, Chris Farley, just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Just so good. And physical comedy, amazing. Playing the different roles and the different voices, amazing. And I don't remember how big of a discussion point this was. My mom especially was really big fans of old Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Not old when she was watching it, obviously, but
right.
Of Saturday Night Live. And I remember there was something that she, like she'd laugh at the characters Chris Farley would portray.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember it always really bothered her because she says, I feel like, are we laughing with him or at him? And he's kind of like are we being cruel to him? Right. Or his character, like that kind of thing. She says, is it, that always kind of bothered her a little bit. And it's funny because I was kind of in that in between. It's like, okay, Mom, like I can understand where you're coming from because I don't want to be sitting here laughing at someone. But at the same point, I don't think we necessarily are. Like we are laughing at him, but he has his redeeming moments. He has his points when he stands up for himself. Don't call me worthless.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm doing my best. And then, but it doesn't get super serious because then he does something stupid. He's like, I'm sorry, and and just the way he would bring those characters out, he just was so talented.
So I was
Yeah.
reading up on an interview with the director, Peter Siegel, and recently, like within the last couple of months, and he was talking about the movie reaching its 30th anniversary and all of that. And which, by the way, I know we've talked before how much we appreciate physical media. For anyone out there who also loves physical media, for its 30th anniversary, this one just came out on 4K Blu-ray. So if anybody wants to go look for it and grab a copy of it, I believe a new 4K just came out, and then they have a 4K steelbook covered collector's edition of it too. So if you love this movie and you love physical media, it's available. It's brand new. So go find it in all the places that you buy your physical media at. But this interview with the director, he talked about a couple things, and he mentioned how it was such a wonderful time to get to work with Chris Farley and David Spade, because this is still a point in time, according to the director, when Chris Farley was clean and sober. And so it wasn't, obviously he passes away 2 years after this movie comes out. But he said working with him at this point in time, this was kind of what he felt like was the peak of his, comedic power. That they were working, they were kind of up against a clock because they were working in between seasons of Saturday Night Live. So they had to finish the movie before that. They were also, he said, they were working pretty much without a script. He likened it to laying the train tracks down just as the train is coming up, because they were working on the script as they were making the movie. He also said one of the interesting things about this, and I'm sure this has got to happen for some of these comedians who are more of the kind of the improv bent, is, David Spade, Chris Farley, they're so used to working on Saturday Night Live that he said there were times where they would struggle because in a movie you're having to do multiple takes, multiple camera angles, whereas in Saturday Night Live you shoot it, you're one and done. So he said sometimes they would, he said there were some times where Chris Farley would actually start acting like a John Belushi character, and he'd have to remind him, he's like, oh, hey, you're doing Belushi. He's like, I know, I'm tired of doing like the same part every single day over and over again. I want to do different characters. I want to do different things. And so it sounds like they, he tried to give them opportunities to improv some of the stuff that they were doing during dress rehearsals and things like that. Like the, what was the one that I had read? Oh, where he's trying something on and he's like, does this make me look fat? And he's like, no, your face does that. Like that was a comment that they jokingly, David Spade said to Chris Farley just while they weren't filming. And the director was like, okay, that's got to go in the movie. So it sounds like there was a ton of that kind of stuff too. And it sounds like it was just
that guy in a little cup.
So apparently Chris Farley would do that pretty regularly around the SNL offices.
Okay.
So I can only imagine that there's just this line of torn and tattered coats, somewhere in the SNL studios.
Right. I feel my face hurts. Not here, not down here,
but right
here.
What happened to your face?
And then a waitress comes up. What happened to your face? See? Yeah. Yeah, no, it's, yeah. And I think especially knowing that, cause Chris Farley is like I mean, people often will kind of compare him to a John Belushi. And I feel like had he been given the opportunity, that I think his humor could have matured. Cause I think sometimes people still look at it and be like, it's very sophomoric. It's falling into tables. It's, the goofy kind of stupid humor kind of stuff. I feel like had he been around longer, had he been clean and sober, had he been around longer than just 2 more years after this, I feel like you could have had a whole slew of movies where, he was able to be featured. And I feel like, his comedy probably could have matured beyond what I think even Ebert said in his review. Like he hated the movie. And they were like, the jokes are shallow. The jokes are, sophomoric and childish. And I feel like in some of the ways that John Belushi's career was cut short. You still had kind of glimpses of even how his comedy was maturing. I feel like Chris Farley could have had the same opportunity had he been around a little bit longer. So even the director of this in his interview talked about how he was just devastated that you didn't have Chris Farley for, as long as people would have wanted, that you would have seen so much more out of him.
Well, sure. But again, and I think this gets this way with comedy. Okay, it's okay for people to not like it, but it's like maybe this comedy wasn't meant for you.
Yeah.
Now, a 13, a 14, a 15, 16-year-old boy would find this hilarious, right? Like, and that's kind of I don't know. I think we've had this happen before, especially comedies in and around here. Comedy's tough, right? Like action movies and drama, that can withstand the test of time and hold up and all that. But comedy is very, very tough. So I find that interesting, but not surprising that, certain critics just didn't like this movie.
So some favorite lines and favorite quotes, because this thing is infinitely quotable. I do enjoy after he had the question on his test in college, and then he goes back to the office and he's like, "I'm going to need your John Hancock on this one." He's like, "John Hancock? It's Herbie Hancock." John Hancock. One of the other lines that I enjoyed was as the kids are as he keeps commenting when they're out on the sailboat, he's like, "Well, I'm really sorry that there's no wind out here," and the kids keep throwing their insults at him, and I'm trying, was it him or was it Michelle?
Well, she's the one that finally gets him to go away.
She's the one.
Okay, you little spazoids. I know where you live and I've seen where you sleep, and I swear to God, your mothers will cry when they see what I've done to you.
Yeah. I did like his line right before that. "You better pray to the god of skinny punks."
Yep.
I'm like, oh, there's a new one for the Pantheon. The god of skinny punks.
I mean, there's got to be one. There's so many skinny punks. Someone's keeping them alive.
Right. Somebody's their patron. And then the fun use of music as they're driving the car.
Yes.
You have.
You want to change it? No, you don't have to change it. Look, you can change it if you want to. I'm fine if you're fine.
And then next thing we see is they're belting along with the Carpenters.
And
then I think it's after he gets hit, and then they're in the diner after he smacks him in the face with the 2x4, and they're in the diner, and it starts the Brenda Lee song. "I'm sorry, so sorry."
Yeah.
But yeah, just a ton of quotable, funny moments in this one. The funny thing about this one is I was trying to think about as I'm watching this movie, and again realizing that I had not seen this entire movie before. I made a little bit of a comparison, and I want to see what you guys think about this. And I have some music to go along with my reveal here. As I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking, sometimes we have a classic movie, we have a classic comedy, and then somebody wants to come along and like update it for the next, the next group of people, to kind of remake it or rework it in some way. So I'm proposing to you that I'm subtitling this movie. I'm retitling this movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, The Next Generation. So
he's got the drop and everything.
I have the drop and everything. How do you feel about that? Because I'm watching this movie and I'm going, this is kind of like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but like Pepsi for a new generation.
I mean, yeah, in its own way. Sure. I hadn't thought about it till you said it, but I can see it.
I think especially as the car is falling apart, like progressively getting worse and falling apart.
Yeah, you could see the cop pulling them over and saying, Do you know how fast you were going? And it
Oddly
wouldn't
enough,
surprise
officer.
me if they at least spent a minute thinking about doing that bit.
Right.
And then they probably said, nah.
Well, and it probably, if as I'm thinking about it, I'm realizing, and it's also SNL. Like we've got Steve Martin and John Candy in the original,
Mhm.
and we've also got a bunch of other SNL people. So there's definite connections there between the two. Yeah. So I was going to throw that out there because I'm like, I made this connection in my head. I'm like, I wonder if somewhere in the back of somebody's mind, as they said, they were like trying to build this plane while they were flying it. Did somebody just go, why don't we just use kind of the basic plot beats of planes, trains, and automobiles and just do it to fit this story?
Mm-hmm.
It does have the buddy adventure feel to it.
Yeah.
And that was the one piece I couldn't remember because exactly. And when I first saw it, I remember thinking, man, David Spade, he's kind of mean to Tommy Boy. But and he is, but they warm up to each other and they really, and then like he says, well, I don't have any friends,
right.
It's it was a kind of a fun buddy adventure.
I had to pull up the quote from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. What are you driving here? Well, we had a small fire last night, but we caught it in the nick of time. Do you have any idea how fast you were going? Funny enough, I was just talking to my friend about that. Our speedometer has melted, and as a result, it's very hard to see with any degree of accuracy exactly how fast we were going. Yeah, I felt like, especially in the moments where like the hood of the car is flying up in their face and they're about to get run over by a semi, I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, this is like, it's kind of like a younger version of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Totally.
That was a very funny scene when the way the hood came up.
Mm-hmm.
Just the rhythm of that scene was pretty hilarious.
The other scene I enjoyed along the lines of them getting pulled over is when they're getting pulled over, and in order to stop the cops from pulling them over, they come running out. Oh my God, the bees! I'm being stung by the, and then
save your jobs!
and then imagine both cops are like, I'm allergic to bees. Oh, so am I. We'll come back and check on you later.
That was good.
The two
understated, but when he's got the peanut M&Ms, and he's just like, hey, no eating in here. Okay. And he sets it on the dash.
And then they all slide in.
And I forget. All of a sudden they roll in here, clunk, 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 going down. It's just like, oh. That was a good bit.
Yeah.
I want to say good on him too, because it wasn't just a Chris Farley vehicle.
Right.
It was a Chris Farley vehicle, but not just. Like, they found ways to put all his little, getting hit in the head, like, and all that kind of stuff, the way for him to do his physical comedy. But there was a fun story there too. I mean, yep, simplistic, but it was enough to keep the thing going. It had heart, guy that kind of the underdog, you're rooting for him to succeed. They get the bad guys at the end, almost like Scooby-Doo reveal.
Right.
They're really married. Dum, 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 and then the chase scene, something falls on the guy's groin. I mean, it was just super simple.
It has so much of and it makes sense that some of the production crew were the same. It has so much the same beats as Wayne's World.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, this isn't how it should have ended. Let's try the different ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and again, like, these are all like the Saturday Night Live guys that when we were watching Saturday Night Live, right. So, and it works.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you guys a question, and it's not one of the three questions. We'll go to the three questions here in just a second. And it's not
what
related.
I'm hearing is you're adding a question.
I'm adding a question. Yes.
Just checking.
it's I do what I want to do.
It's not a democracy, I know.
No, it's not at all. I'm actually adding 2 questions, so we're going back to the
boy.
old format of 5
wow.
questions here. So
1, 2, 5. 3 questions.
5.
3.
3, sir. 5. Okay, so question number 1 is, which actor in this movie would be your doppelganger? It doesn't have to be looks. You can think personality, mannerisms. Like, which one of these people do you think is closest to you in personality, mannerisms? I very much have my answer for Pat.
Oh God.
Pat, just mannerisms, and I think the cadence of how he speaks. Every time I see Rob Lowe in anything, I think that could be your twin brother.
Really?
Yes. I don't know.
Take it, man. That is not a bad answer.
Just some of the ways, some of the ways that he talks, and in especially not necessarily this one so much, but I'm thinking of like when he was in West Wing, or when he was in Parks and Recreation, how he's almost consistently like upbeat and always like positive about stuff. I don't know. I see that as being like Rob Lowe could be your doppelganger.
Okay, well, I'll take that. Well, thank you, man. Hopefully it's not like the way the character was in this movie, but
no, not so much in this one, but
no, man, I'll take that. Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, unless you want to get
cool.
like this heavy weighted thing dropped on your crotch.
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to avoid that at all costs, but hey, what else am I going to do on a Friday night? No, that's cool. That's cool.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Awesome. For myself, just looking at mannerisms and character, I guess I would have liked to have been like who was the gal that ended up being his girlfriend?
Michelle.
I guess I would like saw the good in him, was just like, hey man, like, just kind of rolled with it. She tried to treat him right. She just seemed like a really good person, and like, man, I blew it. I'm leaving. I screwed this up. The company's, like, then she's like, wait a minute. No, it's wrong. I'm coming back. And I just really, I thought she was a pretty class act throughout. So I would have, for this movie, I guess I would have identified with her character.
Okay. Bo, what you got?
I'm probably Richard.
Richard.
I don't know that I want to be Richard, but I think that's probably where I end up.
That's okay, because I gave myself Tommy. Not necessarily in the intelligence area. Not in the intelligence area, but the like trying to do good things, but also maybe a little clumsy. That's the other thing too. If Chris Farley had just had the opportunity, I really think that there could have been some wonderful glass tables for him to fall into if he had been given a Star Trek cameo.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No. Okay. All right. Now, second of the not 3 questions. Let's talk SNL for just a second, and I'll let you choose either Chris Farley or David Spade. Favorite SNL skit that featured either one of those guys?
Van Down by the River.
Do you go with the Matt Foley?
It's got to be Matt Foley.
Okay.
I don't even know why I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
Bill Shakespeare.
We got Bill
over there.
Shakespeare over here, Dad. He's been using his papers for rolling doobies. You're going to have plenty of time for doobie rolling when you're living in a van down by the river. And what do you want to do? I want to live in a van down by the river. Well, you'll have plenty of time to live in a van down by the river when you're living in a van down by the river.
Oh, God.
On a steady diet of government cheese and living in a yeah.
Oh. True comedic genius.
Matt Foley is always I feel like that's always the good answer. There was, I'm trying to remember which episode it was. Bill Swirsky's super fans. He was one of the super fans, and I believe it was I want to say it was the episode with Michael Jordan, when Michael Jordan was hosting SNL.
Oh,
and he came on and they're talking about something, and all of a sudden Chris Farley's character just starts like having a heart attack and just starts pounding himself in the chest.
Mm-hmm.
and he has the line, he's like, you okay over there? It's like, yeah. He's like, did you have a heart attack? Yeah, I had another heart attack. How many does that make of you? That makes it a baker's dozen for me.
It was my 13th.
It's my 13th heart attack. Makes it a baker's dozen for me. That one, and I know this was my mom's, not ironically, what's the word I'm looking for? Ironically, because she hated it. I would like to say one of my other favorites was when Patrick Swayze was hosting and they did the Chippendales dance.
Yes.
Yes.
Gosh. That was
good. That was good. That was really good.
Poetry in motion. And there was a lot of motion. Therefore, a lot of poetry.
When the band is rocking.
Yes.
He's a big dumb animal, isn't he, folks?
Who was what? And you referenced it earlier. What was the character when he was just like, "Hey, you remember that time?"
You remember your brother?
That was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
What was that? What was his character? What was that?
Was it the Chris Farley show?
Yeah, that's probably just the.
I think it was just called it was just called the Chris Farley show, and it was, and that was his line almost every single time was, "Hey, do you remember that movie that you were in? That was awesome."
And
That's
I could identify with that because I mean, I don't know how many times, I'd either tell a story or ask or just, and it'd always be like, the line with all the crew that you're hanging out with was always just like, "Yeah, great story, Pat."
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, but I could always channel that Chris Farley character and just like, "Hey, you remember that time?" And great story, Pat. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Like, and like everyone knew. So that kind of like that was kind of like your escape route. You could always throw that in and you were referencing that Chris Farley character. And I don't know about you guys, but like, I just had experience with that all the time. Something's funny in my head, or I really want to talk about something. And the only thing that comes out is, "Hey, remember that time in that movie when,
with the
Yoda and the Emperor had a lightsaber fight?"
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that was pretty cool.
That was awesome. One of my favorite one of my favorite ones when he would do the Chris Farley show was when he had Paul McCartney on, and he goes, "Do you remember when you were in the Beatles?" Yes. Yes, Paul McCartney remembers when he was in the Beatles.
I think I think he's good.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Just awesome.
Good stuff. All right. Hey, do you guys remember when we would ask 3 questions?
I've heard of this.
Yeah, that's awesome. We're going to do that now.
It's pretty awesome.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Question number 1. What is he is so excited to get that D+. D+.
I
passed. What is the worst grade you ever got in school?
D+, trigonometry, junior year.
Oh, there we go.
I was Honestly, happy I squeaked that out. I'm not gonna lie. It was not trigonometry, and I do not belong in the same classroom.
No.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, mine was freshman year of college, and signed up for my classes with the help of, because that was before everything was online. So, or at least freshman year, you had to go in and sit with a counselor while you signed up for your classes. And as a kid, I loved astronomy. So I was like, oh, I have to take science classes. Let me take a science class. Let me take an astronomy class. And the counselor was like,
mind if I do.
This is great. I know the planets. Like, this should be a good, easy grade for me to get started off with. The counselor, however, recommended that, and at the time I was probably, dumb or too naive to understand the full numbering system of the college courses. And so instead of Astronomy 101, which is the class I probably wanted, which is more of the astronomy appreciation class, I was signed up for Astronomy 121. Now, you may ask yourself, what could possibly be the difference between...
This is not my beautiful house.
Well,
and you
may ask yourself.
It's exactly 20 more difficult.
Right. 220, 221, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
And so you may ask yourself, what is the difference between Astronomy 101 and 121? And I will give you that answer. The difference, my friends, is math and physics.
It was my understanding that there would be no math.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed. And so John did not do well in that class because it was heavy on the physics and the math. And I was kind of sitting there going, I don't really care how the planets pass through space and calculating trajectories, and I'm not trying to calculate a jump to hyperspace.
Angles of the rotary girder and the
right. I'm not trying to make sure I don't bounce too close to a supernova and end my trip real quick here. I just want to appreciate the planets and the stars and the pretty sparkly things, and then maybe get a grade that helps me get on to my next thing.
So why did your counselor as a freshman put you in this class?
I don't know.
He was into astronomy and they got excited.
Yeah.
Was this an adult or was this some like...
No, this was an adult.
P8? Oh, okay.
Let's put it this way. I have a lot of issues with the counselors I had at my former alma mater.
Okay.
I ended up having to take a summer course one time because they forgot to tell me I needed this one particular class for a graduation requirement. So I had to, on my own dime, separate from the other tuition that had already been paid. I could have folded it into the tuition I was already paying. But instead I had to pay extra and take a summer course one year because they forgot to tell me about it. So anytime my alma mater calls up or sends emails that says, hey, would you like to donate to us?
No, already did.
Well, no, as soon as you give me back that $1,800 I paid for this summer course, I'd be happy to consider it.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, guys. I gave it the office.
Yes. So mine was also a D+ in Astronomy 121.
Okay. Okay.
Patrick, what was the worst
Now, are we
grade?
talking lowest grade on like a test or or like a final grade for the class?
I would say more like a final grade for the class kind of a deal.
Okay. I think the lowest, trying to think. There were some of those music history classes where they had to grade them on such a heavy curve that, like, a C, if you got a C, you were the curve wrecker. You were the kid that got 100%. Was like a C. Like D was, most of the kids in the class got Ds. Was how hard this class was.
Sure.
There were some music history classes like that. The hardest one was, I'd say, in high school, and it would have been, I think, junior year pre-calc. And it was just, I was in this track that I just should not have been in. And it was a complete, utter disaster. I got a 12% on a test one time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, I mean, kudos to the teacher for actually grading it out and figuring out that it was 12%.
No offense,
but
Pat, but that was a TA.
Yeah. Well, no, this was high school. It wasn't.
Oh, that's right. Fair enough.
Yep. Nope. It's. When the recording stops, I can fill in some of the gaps with that one. But no. It was 12, and I just should not have been in that level of math. I mean, that's just the bottom line. I think there was maybe they were just like, okay, let's get them through and move them, because I ended up with a C in the class. Like I passed the class. Maybe I got a D in the class. I don't know, but I passed through, and then I moved down a level in math, which I should have done like several years prior. And suddenly the world got a lot better. But oh man, I was so lost. And there was a good portion of that class where I just had to set an F. And I was going to see the teacher before school. I was going to see the teacher at lunch. I was going to see the teacher after school. I was getting help from, my dad was trying to help me with the math thing. And it was just, this just does not make sense. Like nothing is flowing. Like I can't even tell you what I'm trying to process right here.
Yeah.
But the low point was a 12% on a test. And like I said, I think they allowed retakes to a certain point that somehow they could check the boxes to get it, that their higher ups could, okay, yeah, it averaged out to a C. And, somehow I got through that thing but yeah, that was pretty grim. And like I said, even now, like when my kids were learning math in middle school and all that, the way that they would break down numbers and manipulate numbers, I would sit there and look and, I'd be trying to help them with their homework. And it was like, yeah, that's not how we're supposed to do it. I'm like, okay, well, how are you supposed to do it? And they would explain it to me, which would then in turn help them. But the way they were explaining it, I'd go to Tammy, who's actually a real teacher. And I'd say like, Tammy, does this make sense? Oh yeah, because that's how you're supposed to look at it. Because and it was just like, my brain does not process numbers like that. That makes it absolutely makes no sense.
Dad, this is not how you work the problem. Why don't you just tell me how to work the problem?
Yeah. And it was like, and it was actually in one level, it was kind of fascinating about how my mind works. Cause it was like, well, how do you get to the answer? And it was like, well, I kind of plug random numbers in until the whole thing just kind of works. But then it was like, no. If you actually follow this process and like, here we go, trackies. Fizbin. Do you remember Fizbin?
Mm-hmm.
From the original series episode, A Piece of the Action?
Mm-hmm.
When Kirk describes Fizbin, that is exactly what math was for me for most of high school. Was sitting in there. It was like they were describing things that was just like, what? Like, what is going on? Like, and I would sit there in the class and I was like, okay, I'm going to sit here. This year's going to be better. I am going to write everything down. I'm not going to miss a beat. I'm going to put my hand up and ask questions as soon as something doesn't make sense. 30 seconds. I kid you not, 30 seconds into the class, I just put my head down and I'm just like, I can't, like, I don't know what they're saying. And I don't think it was like a phobia thing, like my mind freeze, but it was, yeah. And then that one test, I'm just like, it was really bad. I'm just like, I don't even know what I'm looking at here. But that's the best comparison I can have. And if those of you listening, go back and watch, I'm sure it's on YouTube, go back and watch original series Star Trek, Piece of the Action, when Kirk teaches them the card game Fizbin, and he describes the rules. That was exactly what learning math was for me. So that was my lowest grade story.
That's yours, yeah. Yeah. Math always seems to be a problem.
Yeah. John.
What?
I like what you did there.
No. Yeah. Well, I didn't even think about that.
Did you not think about that?
No, I didn't think about that.
I thought you were just playing it cool.
No. I literally was just thinking, wow, math has always been a problem. I would like to claim that I thought about that, but
claim it.
Yeah.
Everyone always talks about like history. Oh, you just got to memorize dates. I'm not good at memorizing dates.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
yeah.
Not that memorizing dates is the effective way to learn history, but even that, you're just read the information, keep repeating it till it's in your head. If memorizing dates is the goal, the whole the whole math thing for me, it was. There was another.
There was a comedian I heard just recently, and he had like this series of one-liners, and one of them was, I failed math so many times I can't even count. But I was good at history. No, wait. All right, number 2. What is your favorite? Who does number 2 work for? What is your favorite Brian Dennehy role?
He was in the West Wing for an episode, wasn't he?
He was in the West Wing. So tying back to our American President recording from previously, yes, he was in the West Wing. I loved this movie as a kid, so I am going to go with Cocoon. That is probably one of my favorite Brian Dennehy roles. Now, he's great in First Blood. And was he was in FX, I think.
Yeah, he was in yes, he was.
Yeah. But Cocoon, like I can't even tell you the number of times I watched that movie growing up as a kid.
He was really good near the end of his career in Blacklist.
Okay.
I really liked his portrayal there. There's another one. The name is not. I had it earlier and then I lost it. I'm going back to check now. Yeah, to connect him to David Spade, he was David Spade's father on the comedy Just Shoot Me.
Oh yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
What was that movie I was thinking? Well, he did Death of a Salesman in 2000.
Oh, okay.
Not what I was thinking of, but I have seen that, and it was good. This is going to drive me nuts. Yar. Now I'm debating. Oh, yeah, he was in that, wasn't he? Return to Snowy River.
Oh, yeah.
What am I thinking about? I must not be thinking. I must be confusing it with somebody else because the movie I'm picturing is not showing
Not what you were
up
thinking
here.
of?
Not on the list.
No. He was on an episode of MASH. I mean, he had quite the career. There's a lot of good stuff in there, but I would say Blacklist from what I can remember of that is definitely him.
Excellent. Patrick, did you give yours?
Well, that's the thing is a lot of the movies that he's in very prominently, I don't know as well. So it's almost like the one-off parts. Like I remember his role in The West Wing, and I really, really enjoyed that. So I'm going to list that, but it's not, like I said, he was in one episode.
Yeah. Okay. All righty. And then our question number 3, what is your favorite sing-along song in the car? And I recognize, because I was already told this earlier today, that it may depend on who is in the car with you. It may depend on your mood that week or why you're in the car. If you're getting to work, if you've just left work, if you're whatever. But if you can narrow it down to maybe like one that it maybe is one that consistently gets sung along to in the car. I will say for us, I mean, there's just a huge, are singing along pretty much constantly in the car. But I will say one that if you kind of added up the number of times it gets sung in the car, there was this long stretch time where it was probably something from Hamilton. There are also long stretches of time where it's probably something from Les Mis. So the one that I think, if Sharon and I are in the car together and we are going to be singing along, if you were to add up the number of times we have sung this song in the car, I probably would have to pick The Confrontation from Les Mis. Because we each take the parts. I take Javert, she takes Jean Valjean, and we have a good time.
There it is. I'd love to say I'd sing along to like, you know, any Def Leppard tunes and all that. But the problem is those guys, you know, especially early, it's so high. Like it's just hard to get. It's hard to get up there, right? To sing those vocal lines. I suppose that shouldn't stop a person.
Not in the car, anyway.
Not in the car. You do what you want to do.
Right. Right. So I guess, yeah, probably anything Def Leppard.
Okay.
It's fun to sing along with. Motley Crue, especially the Dr. Feelgood album.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Home Sweet Home and Shout at the Devil from, what would that have been? Theater of Pain?
I believe so. Yeah.
Sinatra, Fly Me to the Moon.
There you go.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. Leaving work lately, occasionally it will be the Nathaniel Rateliff song SOB.
That'll do it.
Yeah. That one gets played quite a bit.
Okay.
Pat, if you hadn't heard that song, it's a lot of fun. You should listen to it.
I will be sure to.
Not with the kids around.
I'll be sure of that as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I think we've covered all of our bases here. I think we have successfully sold the metaphorical 500,000 brake pads that we needed to sell for this episode. Do you guys remember when we recorded that podcast about Tommy Boy?
Yeah.
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 That was awesome. Anyway, you know what else is awesome? You remember how how we have a website called 30podcast.com?
Yeah.
That's awesome too.
It's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah. You remember, okay, I'm not gonna keep doing this. We are in the month of May. May is Boys and Girls Month, and our Patreon episode is After Hours from 85. Our Patreon short is Thunderbolts from 2025. The boys and girls that make up this month are Tommy Boy, which was this episode. Next week is Showgirls. After that, we've got The Three Musketeers from 1993. That's our 10th anniversary rewatch. And then we finish it off with Bad Boys. And then we are barreling towards being almost halfway through this year already, which seems a little crazy. But, you know, I think I can speak for all of us and say we're all a little crazy. Not just being halfway through this year being a little crazy. I think we're all a little crazy. And I think that's okay. So, but we're good enough. We're smart enough, and doggone
Gosh
it.
darn it.
People like
us.
I think.
That's right.
Or at least people listen to us, whether they like us or not.
That's true. You know, a handful of people here and there.
John, I gotta jump way back to the beginning of the episode.
Jump way back, Pat.
I am remiss. The month of May.
Yes.
I didn't bring up anything about the Indianapolis 500.
Oh, go for
Month of May, 1995.
Yeah.
Jacques Villeneuve, first Canadian to win the Indianapolis 500. And he ended up winning the IndyCar championship that year.
Oh, nice.
I neglected to mention that.
That's all right. Well, you've remedied that at this point.
I have righted the great wrong.
There you go. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Go watch Tommy Boy again if you haven't seen it in a while. Fun stuff, and you can just, I'm sure, if you have any friends that lived through the 90s, they will just quote it along with you, because I don't think I've run into anybody who doesn't know at least half the quotes from this movie.
Yes.
So
true dat.
All right. Holy shnikes, it's time to end this episode. Be excellent to each other, everybody. Go watch some good movies, and we'll see you back here next time.
Bring the lights down low, it's time to show. Lights, camera, you know what we mean. Behold the magic of the silver screen. Some movies rock, some movies shock.